Chat, welcome. Hey guys, welcome to a full flap live stream in the 737 800. This is kind of a hurry up stream. Wasn't anticipating streaming because I was supposed to be at work, but got home early. Got a couple of days off before heading out to Recurrent, and I was going to jump in the sim and play with some emergency procedures, QRH drills, things like that, and figured why not do them in the stream. So here we are in the 737-8, and the idea behind this stream is trying to do things as realistically as possible, just to knock some rust off going through the QRH and all the kind of things that we don't get to do on the line or when we're flying the sim, just back and forth doing kind of normal operations. So, chat box is blowing up. Welcome everybody, appreciate it. V1 with the first comment, thumbnail mid, awesome. Really setting the tone here. Yeah, it was a hurry up thumbnail, dude. I was busy watching my favorite streamer compare the FS Labs and the Phoenix, so didn't have time to make a good thumbnail. Thanks for dropping in the chat though, dude. Oscar, welcome. Full manual control stream. I'm sick of these laws. I know. We're going to be fully manually controlling the old PMDG. Gus, welcome, dude. Emergency procedures, yes. A-firm, flap 15 all day, but we will use flap 40, I promise, during this stream. We'll discuss when as we get into it. So, Diabetic Lad, welcome. He actually streams. It's a miracle. I know, dude. Man, between I didn't even work that much this month, so I don't have an excuse there. But we went on a family vacation, and then getting a toddler back on a regular schedule after said vacation has been quite a trip. So anyway, Zippy, yeah, help me out, dude. Big Sim is oppressing me. All right, it's not yellow. Get out of here. This is I actually fired this sim up, and I was like, 2020 is still holding up, dude. Doesn't look yellow at all. Definitely doesn't on my screen because I've got some shaders applied. Yeah, definitely a lowrider, man. It is funny coming from the A220 into the 7.3. It was almost surprising how low to the ground the airplane was. Having to duck into the nose wheel well and such, as opposed to just being able to stand up and walk under the airplane, was something to get used to. Full show. Water, welcome, dude. How's it going, Bill's Mafia? FS Lab stream went, dude. I would be in so over my head in an Airbus, man. I need Big Sim to walk me through it, dude. We'll do a stream with Big Sim on the jump seat, walking me through how to Airbus correctly. Virtual Flight Diaries, welcome, dude. Welcome. V1's heading out to Cirrus Steaks. Be right back, dude. Dude, lots of Far East spices, man. Boil them up. It tastes pretty good. Pete Ski, welcome. Brand of Sim Pilot, hello, man. Turk's in the house. Turk Karen, Max Racing. What's up, y'all? All right. Well, hey, thanks for all the love in the chat. Welcome to it. We are in Salt Lake City. I think there's a Delta Gate in real life, but I didn't want a super long taxi. So we're going out as American 1422 today, and we're going to fire it up. And the only known issue that we have with the airplane as we get into it is the APU. The APU bleed is inoperative, so still works for electrical power, but the APU bleed is inoperative. So that's going to lead us to doing a start at the gate and then a cross bleed once we get pushed off the gate there. So we'll exercise some of the QRH muscles there, or the normal procedures muscles there, diving into it. I am going to use the Win McMcDo as well. So if you don't see me doing something in the FMS and you want me to talk about it, just let me know in the chat. So we'll get the airplane electrically powered up here. So the battery comes on. DC power gauge goes to battery. We check 24 volts. That looks all good. We'll run this to ground power. We got good ground power there. So we will go ahead and put us on the ground power bus. Okay, and the airplane should be firing up electrically. It is. We'll come up here, and we'll just run through everything. So the alternate flaps should be down and guarded. They are. All the flight control switches are guarded. Coming down here, we've got the electrical power established. We'll come over here, make sure the packs are off, the engine bleeds are on, all the doors look good, the landing gear handle is down in the lock position. We've got 3 lights on the overhead as well as 3 lights on the center pedestal. So we are squared away. We'll also check the emergency landing gear extension hatch, which is right here. So you want to make sure that this hatch is down and seated, because if it's not, it'll actually inhibit gear retraction on takeoff. So making sure that that's down, and then checking the circuit breaker panels on behind the captain and the first officer there, and that looks good to go. Cool. Gus, yeah, APU bleed off is unacceptable. I tend to agree with you, man. That's a lot more work than I want to deal with when I'm going into the office. So, flight leading edge devices, check all of those. We'll get the IRSs spinning up. We'll go nav, get those going. Check the crew oxygen. We need at least 1,000 psi on the gauge, which we've got. The switch is in normal. We'll check the flight recorder, make sure the light goes out. Check the Mach airspeed warning. And stick shakers, we need AC power on the airplane for 2-3 minutes, so we'll wait to test those. For the actual route, we're going to do Salt Lake to Vegas, but we're not actually going to get to Vegas. It's just going to be emergency procedures palooza out of Salt Lake. I've got real world weather selected, and we're going to the north. Looks like 3002 on the meters. Did I just lie to you? I did. There we go. Now we have live weather. Live weather is selected. Check the oxygen mask. We'll set the altimeter with the Magic Bearer ref key. 3002 looks good. Zippy, you're right. Yep, the speed brake, the spoilers are stowed as well. Check those on my Blackbird levers as opposed to the actual sim there, but they are good to go. All right, let's dive into the FMS. We'll use FMS here. We're checking the nav data, making sure that the active database is correct, which it is. And then we'll go to position. We'll type KSLC, pop that in. My company doesn't use the gate functionality, so we will just go to the GPS page, punch that in, and go to route. All right. As in story spoilers, not the actual spoilers. Oh, gotcha. Sorry, man, I don't understand the... Oh, spoilers in the story. I gotcha. All right, sweet. Flight plan, sim brief select. We'll set the payload, we'll set the fuel, and we'll select the route. That's all a simism, of course. That is all a simism, and then this part of the box is actually fairly accurate. The box is different than what we have in the actual airplane. The iFly simulates the actual box that we fly with, but this is close enough for government work. All right, we'll load up the FMS. Blackbird controls, welcome in. We're using Blackbird control throttles, dude. And I tell you what, it is 100% necessary when you're doing engine out work to have the correct throttle flaps and speed brake handles. So appreciate you supplying those to the channel, dude. All right, that is squared away. We'll go to departures and arrivals, and we're taking off runway 34 left on the Arches 1 down to Milford. Execute that, going into Vegas on the Instrument Landing System 26 left approach from Prino on the Chow 3. Stu transition, execute that. All right, that all looks good. Perf init, request. We're going up to flight level 340, so we'll set this since V1's out doing the walk around right now. All right, so we'll set 340 and 2150 for our pressurization. All right, that is squared away. Perf init, load, and execute, and then PMDG isn't. We actually have to correct the altitude there because it doesn't load correctly. You know, I say that's a simism. I actually had to fix that on my last leg, so definitely something to check. So maybe not a simism, but definitely something to check that the data linked information actually jives with what you're expecting there. Okay, we'll go to legs, route data, and wind request, and we'll get the winds loaded in here. Kind of lucky that Salt Lake's going north. There's a engine out procedure going the other way, but luckily out over the water there is not one. All right, we'll load the winds. Execute 340. Then we'll go to the descent forecast page and load those as well. Execute. All right. We can go to the progress page and check our distance. 347 nautical miles is the FMS computed distance. And if we check that against our SimBrief flight plan, SimBrief says 362. So ballpark correct distance, so we don't have to worry about a gross navigational error or anything like that in the box. From here, we're going to go through the VNAV pages. So climb, we'll climb out. Last time I went to Salt Lake, they were actually doing 240 knots instead of the 230 that is typical. So we'll do 240 and 0.79. On the speed, we'll cruise down to Vegas at 0.79, and then we'll descend. I don't know why this doesn't populate in the PMDG before the IRSs are aligned, but in our actual aircraft, it does. Okay, but anyway, that's in there. If you're looking for a good tutorial on Mach and airspeed changeover altitude, go check out V1 Sim on YouTube and watch him struggle through it. Route Salt Lake City to Las Vegas, Delta 1422, off of 3-4 left. Real world, we would copy that into Route 2. Got Cedar City in there for an alternate. That'll do. Legs. Yeah, basically 344. It's a vector off the runway, and then scant arches. That all looks fine. No fixes that we have to put in there today, so the box looks good. We'll come up here, set our EFIS panel up, get rid of the bearing pointers, get rid of those. We'll set our air return runway for 34 left. So let me grab the information for that. And I'm using my actual EFB from work today just to go through the motions of getting that set up. So we're not going to do a HUD guided takeoff. So we're going to go 1080 for takeoff, and then for an air return, we'll have 111.9er set up just in case. 111.9 and then 1080. Basically parking the nav radio so you don't have erroneous data displayed on your displays. All right, so that looks good. 344 is the final approach course for the mins. Those are going to be 4429, and this is where we get to really enjoy the PMDG barrow bug mech. Anyone got a good joke while we wait 5 minutes for the barrow bug to come up 4,000 feet? Halfway there. Fun fact, the clock right here is a good indicator of whether or not you have GPS. If the numbers are blanked out, then it's a good clue that GPS is not working for you, which I noticed on my last trip. I was looking at the clock trying to figure out why it wasn't set, and then I dove into the FMS and it turned out that our GPSs were not working correctly. FS Labs, there's a joke. Ouch. That's a tough crowd, man. You know, it's funny how, FS Labs was the A320 back in P3D days, and then Phoenix just came and absolutely blew them out of the water, which I personally think is more of a testament to Phoenix than a slight on FS Labs, right? The fact that the newcomer kind of came out of nowhere and just, upset the champion. It's pretty cool. All right, 4429, we got that set for our air return mins, and we're good to go. All right, so an airline pilot and a fisherman walk into a bar. Sweet. Okay, so the FMS is looking good. We'll leave that on the progress page, and then we'll throw a legs page up over on V1 side, and then pilot monitoring would come in and run the overhead flow. This has all been done. Hey, just been the IRSs? Yep, sure did. They'll check the stick shakers. And we've run the first officers for about 6 seconds, and that's to help reset a spoiler control module that's underneath the floor that we were having problems with. So it seems to have fixed the issue. So flight control switches are down and guarded. Alternate flaps are guarded, safety wired, and the switch is in the off position. Yaw damper comes on. That's tied to the IRSs, so once those are spinning, you can turn the yaw damper on. Nav and display switches are normal and automatic for the source. Spar valve and engine valve blue lights look good. Crossfeed is closed. Fuel pumps are all off. We'll come up here. The cabin utility and in-flight entertainment switches can come on so that all the folks in the back can watch TV. All right, equipment cooling looks good. We'll get the emergency lights and seat belts coming on. I do have the Boris sound pack, by the way, so if you like the sounds, go pick up Boris's sound pack. It's on Orbex for I think like $15. It's it really makes the 7.3. Propeats can stay off for now. Anti-ice don't need it. Hide pumps, engines on, electrics off. Got the doors going. Those all look good. Voice recorder switch, we don't have that in our airplanes. Trim air can come on. We're in an 800, so AT&T is the gouge for that to kind of keep everyone happy. And actually, you know what? Let's simulate the well, the APU bleeds in op, so not worried about it anyway. Okay, we got the pressurization panel set. Mode selectors in automatic. Lights are set. First flight of the day, remember the ignition goes to the right. After that is pilot flying, so FO is flying today, so it goes to the right anyway. APU's off for now. Captain's lights are off. That's all good. Set the EFIS panels. For the MCP, we'll get the master over on the FO side. We're going up to 9,000 feet initially. Taking off to the north, so it'll be 344. Unless we notionally get a heading. And it'll be a heading departure, so we're not going to select LNAV. We'll set V2 when we get our data, so that all looks good. Check the lights, auto throttle and autopilot, FMC lights, those all look good. Check all of the warning lights. Okay. Everything looks good here. Okay, turn the approach ILS needles off. The standbys look good. Auto, reset the fuel flow. Engine, we want to check oil, make sure it's above 16 quarts, which it is. Check the hydraulics, make sure it's below 102, so it's not overfilled, and it's above the refill indication on the page, which that looks good. Anti-skid in-op, that's because we don't have any brake pressure, so we'll go ahead and turn the B pump on. That comes on. Auto brakes, go through the bit, that's good. Run through the jip whiz.
Glide slope. Pull
Okay,
up.
we'll check the takeoff config while that's going.
Wind shear. Wind shear.
Okay, speed brakes are down, flaps are set up. Parking brake is set. Stab trim cutout switches are normal. Squibs left and right check good. APU squib is good. And then we'll do a proper fire test here. So we need to be able to see the master warning here. So we'll go to the overheat test. We should have fault APU detector in op as well as an overheat detector light and master caution. So those look good. And then we should have 11 lights and a bell on the overheat. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, an overheat detector light. That's 5 up here, and then 6 lights on the fire panel. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the glare shield, 2, 4, 6 down here, and a bell. That checks good. Cargo fire test. Check. This is a good learning point. When you test the cargo fire, you need to check for these lights. It's not just listening for a bell. You need to make sure that you have both the forward and aft warnings up. We did this fire test in Phoenix yesterday and did not get that, and so just something to keep in mind when you're doing that test to do it properly. All right, for the weather radar, we'll go ahead and select weather radar both sides.
Monitor radar display. Go around. Wind shear ahead. Wind shear ahead. Wind shear ahead.
Okay. Test is good. Both of those are criteria for rejecting a takeoff. So if you hear wind shear ahead, or monitor radar display, and you're prior to V1, those are definitely criteria for aborting a takeoff. HUD setup, that's for the captain. I don't have to worry about that. Nav radios, they're all set. Not going to worry about comm radios. We've got our squawk code in, 2 and off. And check the transponder. TCAS test okay.
TCAS test pass.
Okay. And then check the aileron trim, making sure that the yokes move, which they do. Center it up, and then checking the rudder trim. Right, left, centered. And then center up the index. There. All right. So those checks are completed. So now we'll go into the clearance verification. So we would get our clearance and verify that we were cleared to Salt Lake City, or sorry, Las Vegas. We're taking off out of Salt Lake. So cleared to Las Vegas via the Arches 1 Milford transition. then as filed, which has been checked. On departure, maintain 9 or 1,000, 240 knots. Expect flight level 340, 15 minutes after, which is set twice, 340. Departure frequency would go into the third radio right here, just to remind us, and squawking 4534. So that looks good. Max Racing, what is that panel above the transponder? This guy, I don't know what this is. This is a livery-specific panel. That it must be an American Airlines thing. It's specific to this livery, and it looks to me just like a reminder to do your checklist. Like, you know, takeoff data and bugs, and you would set it, flaps, set, stat. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a some type of checklist item. So, but it's not functional. It's just a texture. So, V1 says checklist, dude. Is that a digital checklist? That's cool. Yeah, we don't have that in our airplane, so I'm not familiar with it, but pretty cool. All right, so for the brief, the weather out of here, winds are 320 at 10 knots, looks good. So basically down the runway, slight left crosswind, 10 miles, few at 10,000, few at 14,000. Temperature 293002 on the meters. NOTAMs checked good. For abnormals and aborts, the captain would brief this, but the short of it is that below 80 knots we'll abort for anything that we don't like. Between 80 knots and V1, it'll be fear, fire, failure, or shear. So fear that the airplane won't fly, engine fire, engine failure, wind shear are going to be our abort criteria. For wind shear, that'll be either monitor radar display or wind shear ahead oral alerts. For engine failure, it'll be the obvious there, feeling the yaw of an engine shutting down with any associated bangs. Fire will be a fire warning with a bell associated with it, or fear that the airplane won't fly for some reason. Above V1, it's just fear that the airplane won't go flying. If we end up aborting, the captain say abort. I have the aircraft. Throttles will come to idle. Speed brakes will come up. Pilot flying will stay on the controls until the captain has positive directional control of the airplane. Once that's complete, you'll go into pilot monitoring role. So verify speed brake up, 80 knots, and then once the airplane is completely under control, decelerating, then give tower a shout. And then the captain will talk to the passengers once the airplane is brought to a complete stop. Once the airplane is stopped, we'll set the parking brake. We'll look up here for the doors, make sure that all the doors are closed. As long as they are, the speed brakes will stow and the flaps will come down to 40 and prep for a possible evacuation. Then we'll jump into the QRH. We'll run the QRH for the issue that caused the abort, and then the post-RTO considerations, and then we'll make a decision from there on whether we can clear the runway and then either taxi back to the gate or give another shot. If it's above 80 knots, we're done. Below 80 knots, like a low-speed abort, then we can talk about potentially going again once we give the duty pilot a call. So that's aborts. If we continue and take it airborne, whoever's flying, keep flying, get it up to a safe altitude, so about, probably 1,200, maybe 2,000 feet once we're in our final configuration, complete with the acceleration. Pilot flying, knock out the boldface items, and then once it's stable, turned over the FO will fly, captain will run the QRH, and then we'll bring it to a logical conclusion. If the captain still run the QRH in a no-time scenario, then FO will just fly it to a 10-mile final, 180 knots as quick as you can get there, and then bring the captain into the equation when we drop the gear, and we'll land the airplane together. So that's it for abnormals and aborts. Yeah, pretty much covers that. All right, for the runway 34 left at Salt Lake is, let's see, 12,000 feet long, dry concrete for the route, taking off on the arches, which we can actually pull up over here on Navigraph. So we'll do departure, SID. I hate how the PMDG tablet always does that. There we go. On the arches, so basically it's a climbing left-hand turn on the assigned heading from ATC. First fix is scant above 10. Flight level 230 is the top, but they gave us 9,000 feet in the clearance. and 240 knots on the departure. All the other RNAV points have been checked. For the taxi, we'll push out of here, start 2, and then taxi down to 3, 4 right. Terrain will be a factor, so I'll have that on the display on my side. For threats, we've got an APU bleed in up. So all that means is that we'll push out of here. We'll start via crossbleed once we're off the gate, and then once that is complete, then it should be a non-issue for the rest of the flight there. That's really it for threats. Anything to add? Nope. We do that, and then we could run a pre-flight checklist. V1 says, going back to the checklist, they would flip them over, and then when all complete, the master toggle changed it to another checklist. That is cool. That's kind of a neat mechanical checklist. I guess that's why they don't have a checklist on here on the yoke. That's pretty neat. Cool. Let's see. Max Racing, it's one of those mechanical checklists. Yep, got it. Awesome. Bill's Mafia, what if a door blows? So that's one of those below 80 knots. If a door falls off, then you can abort for anything. Above 80 knots, you're not going to put the airplane into a high-speed abort criteria for a door. So if a door comes off or if a window opens, you're going to continue the takeoff and come around and land. So it sounds like you know a lot about emergency procedure. You should do an engine out departure. Damn, what a brief. You should name it a thorough instead of a brief. So that's just the first flight of the day brief, and then for the rest of the trip, the abnormals to aborts will be as previously briefed. But the captains are required to give that spiel on the first leg of any trip, and then once that is complete, then for the rest of it, you can skip the emergencies portion and just say as previously briefed for the rest of the trip. But yeah, it is long. Let's see. Gus, Goal used to paint the divider of the forward pedestal on the main panel to indicate the aircraft type. The divider? What now? Like right here? Oh, like they'd paint this? Interesting. Should do a jam stab. That is a horrendous malfunction when it happens. But the reason I was trying to figure out emergencies to do, and I'm trying to stay away from flight control issues just because the simulator does not fly like the real airplane. It's almost negative training. Even flying this airplane without force feedback is almost negative training. Like flying it around single engine, it just doesn't handle the way that the actual airplane does, with the simulator being a lot more complex to fly because it's a lot more twitchy. So V1, here's my version of the same brief. If we lose an engine, keep flying. All aboard the train. You read all the shit we're supposed to do on the engine out SID. Start both of them for push. Yeah, 100%, dude. It's a lot. I don't... it's a fine line between covering all the stuff and making sure the other guy hasn't lost consciousness, right? So, all right. Oh, Gus, but just for the length of the pedestal, so about right here. Interesting. All right. Well, let's see. We check all of our messages, get a pre-push. That all is squared away. So we'll go get our performance data. So we're taking off on 3-4 left. Import that from the aircraft. Import the weather, and we'll calculate. It's a flap 5 TO 49. So we'll come in here. Perfinet looks good. TO 49. Takeoff. Flap 5 CG. Trim of 4.5. Watch your knees. There we go. 4.5. And 136, 138, 142 goes in the MCP. And that is all set. All right, brief is complete. Time for a pre-flight checklist. All right, let's see. Normal checklist, pre-flight. All right, interior and exterior inspections are complete. Circuit breakers have been checked. Nav and display switches are normal and auto. Passenger signs are on. Window heat on. Engine bleed air switches on. Pressurization panel set. Pressurization mode selector auto. Mode control panel is set. Flight director switches are on. Oxygen mask is checked. Altimeters 3002 cross-checked. Flight nav instruments are checked. Warning and annunciator lights were checked. Speed brake is down. Takeoff warning is checked and closed. Engine start levers are cut off. Stab trim cutout switches are normal. Fire warning was checked. Radios and transponder are set. Radar is off. Rudder and aileron trim are free and 0. Parking brake is set. Windows closed and locked, both sides. Flight attendant brief is complete. Departure brief is complete. Logbook and QRHs are on board. Fuel required. We need 13.4, and on board we have 13.4. Pre-flight check is complete. We'll fire up the APU, so we'll get a left tank on and fire up the APU and hack the clock for 3 minutes. Zippy at V1 Sim, that's because you have a bus that'll look after you, not this thing where it chips a nail, it's time to die. Yeah, I think it's just company standard, man, like the way that brief, you know, it's a very, very long, in-depth brief on the first leg, but then the second legs, you can just say, as briefed the first day. So the subsequent briefs go really quick, but yeah, the first one's long. Gus, yeah, that makes sense. So you had 700, 24K, 24K winglet, 800. Oh, all different engine variants. Yeah, that is a lot of variants. SFP1 and SFP2 max racing, and Gus, correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe that is the positionable tail skid option. So you could order the SFP from Boeing without the two-position tail skid, and that was SFP1. And SFP2 was the short field kit with the two-position tail skid, I believe. So, anyway, all right, we're not using the air. We've got external high-pressure air going, so that is good to go. Don't need the clock because we're not using the air. Zippy, you suck at doing briefs. The nav one is fine, but the first brief is awful. Yeah, dude, it comes with practice. My airline brief is not very good. I kind of fall back on the briefs I used to do in the Navy, which, you know, it's a different thing. But a lot of the captains are pretty good at it, so, and they can make it flow pretty good. The nice thing is that it's all standard, and so you eventually you're expecting to hear certain things, so you're kind of listening to the brief, but what you're really listening for is the stuff that's different. You know, if somebody wants to deviate from the SOP. V1, you used to brief like that, but then had a study that showed useful recollection is like 30 seconds over 45 seconds you retain. Oh, interesting. Yes, you've retained less than the mind wanders. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, okay, so, and that's true, right? Because, you know, as the guy's talking, a lot of times your mind is kind of wandering, and you're listening for the key phrases of that's different than SOP. So, all right. So the first threat for today's flight is we're going to do a ground start. So we'll go ahead and get rid of all the vehicles. This is where, you know, the gate agent's coming down, checking to make sure we sign the paperwork, all of that jazz. Man, American's new paint job is so mid. They need to go back to bare metal. I know they can't because of the Airbus, but Airbus ruins everything, man. Can't have a nice bare metal paint job anymore because the A320 is composite. All right, we'll release the rest of those, get rid of the maintenance van. Everyone's departing. Ground connections will release the air conditioning and will request the air start unit. We'd brief the passengers and be like, hey, we're using an external start cart, so it's going to get hot in the cabin. Sorry. Keep releasing. Everyone else is driving away. Oh, Gus, it's the plastic prints. Yeah, that's right. They do have 7/8s, don't they? All right, so while the ground vehicles are going away, let's take a look at this APU bleed in op start. So prior to start, due to safety concerns, it's preferred that engine number 2 be started at the gate. Ground crew briefing is complete. We would talk to them when they came up and told us that they had the start unit. Brief the purser, and basically they're saying that you can't arm the cabin doors until the jetway is pulled, right? So we're going to actually start number 2 with the jetway attached. Reason being, if we light number 2 on fire and have to evacuate the airplane, why not have the jet bridge still hooked up? So, yes, we'll be good to go there, and then we'll make sure the flight deck door is closed and the doors are armed prior to actually pushing back, and then we'll delay the second start until after we push. All right, and then we got one cabin services guy here that insists on showing up. Okay, still waiting on getting closed up here. Ground power is going to stay hooked up, although actually we have an APU. We have an APU generator that's working, so we'll go ahead and go APU gen. That's good. It's on the bus, so we can actually pull ground power. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll release ground power. We'll keep the jetway. Air start unit is in place. Still have some vehicles departing. All right. Chocks are still in place. That's fine. There's the high pressure air hose, which you can see those are much smaller lines than the low pressure air conditioning air. Okay. So ground crew says that they are ready for engine start, so we can do the pushback procedure and checklist. So we have no fuel in the center tank, so we'll go pumps, doors are closed, flight deck door is open, notionally, TCAS. All right, and then we'll do the pushback checklist. So pushback check says doors closed, hydraulic panel set, fuel panel set, flight deck door is open per the MEL procedure, and transponder is transponder. So pushback check is complete. Parking brake is set. The beacon comes on. APU bleed air is unavailable. So the APU bleed switch stays off. Okay, engine start procedure accomplish. And do not set the flaps. So packs will stay off, isolation valve stays open. You can see we've got high pressure air. We'll call ground. Hey, we cleared to start. Yep, we're cleared to start. Okay, so ground and start the clock. All right. 2-minute starter duty cycle, so that's why we start the clock. J.L. Williams, it's 2020. FS 2020. Good old yellow sim. Okay, there's 25. Waiting for max motoring, which is less than 1% RPM rise in 5 seconds before we introduce fuel. All right, there it is, max motoring. Introduce fuel, check the engine and spar valves. They're in transit and they are good to go. Now we're looking for light off. In 10 seconds, the EECS will shut it down after 15 seconds without EGT rise for a wet start. Bill's Mafia, yeah, the flight deck door stays open just to facilitate an evacuation in case something goes wrong. So we actually leave the flight deck door open. All right, there's 56%. Starter cut out. Rehack the clock. That looks good. Now we can isolate, ventilate, check for a CDS caution, which we don't have, and now we're good to go. All right, so back to the book. When the engine is stabilized at idle, accomplish the after start checklist except for the flaps. All right, so we'll come up here, and generator number 2 comes on, probes come on, anti-ice we don't need, hides are set. This pack switch can stay off because we're not using it. That all looks good. Come down here, APU can come off, and we're going to crossbleed the other one, so that works. Fuel pumps, we don't have any center fuel. Check the recall. We should have 3 ELEC, hide, and air conditioning. That all checks for a single engine taxi, and we're not setting the flaps. So that is complete. Okay, and then advise the ground crew cleared to disconnect power and the air start unit. All right, so we will, let's see, release all. Then we go ground connections. We will release the air start unit. Okay, and we'll also release the jetway. And then as the jetway goes, now we'll close the flight deck door, lock it, verify that that's locked, and then the cabin crew can arm the doors for pushback. Okay, then we'll get all the other stuff pulled away here. Release ground power. We could have done that earlier. That's fine. And now we're just into a normal single engine taxi and crossbleed start. Still waiting on that stuff to get moved away. Okay. Gus, you feel like the Zebo start is more realistic? How so? I still think the PMDG is the best one-stop shop for a 737 out there. The iFly is good. It does some things better for sure. The FMS being a big one of them, the flight dynamics being another. But you know, for an NG simulator, I still think that the PMDG is pretty phenomenal. All right, we'll just use default pushback to get out of here. So we'll go Shift P, release the brakes. All right, and here comes the pushback truck. When the ground crew indicates power and air start unit is disconnected and ground personnel are all clear, flaps can be extended to their WDR position. So that's going to be flap 5 for us today. All right, there's flap 5. And the nice thing about the isolate ventilate thing now is now the right engine bleed is cooling the cabin, so passengers aren't getting hot while we're doing this extended start. Gus, the EGT rise and rollback, sure, I could see that. I mean, the PMDG is not immersion braking for me, so. Okay, now we cannot crossbleed while we're getting pushed back. Reason being, they're concerned that, you know, if you execute this procedure in the winter when it's icy, you could actually overpower the tug by, you know, with bringing the good engine up above idle. So just captain and first officer just looking out the window, monitoring the pushback, making sure that, you know, we're not going to get pushed back into something. Sandman, yeah, old reliable, man. The PMDG I think is a solid sim. You know, it's showing its age a little bit. I've got a texture pack on it, and a sound pack for sure. Ooh, zone temp. All right, we'll take a look at that in a second. All right, there we go. Pushback complete. All right, pushback complete. Set brakes. Brake set. Clear disconnect. Thanks for the good push. And we'll go ahead and flaps are set. We can do an after start checklist. And after start checklist says generator is on, probe heat's on, anti-ice not required, air conditioning panel is set, recall is checked with the 3, and auto brakes are RTO. After start check is complete. And now we can go ahead and execute the crossbleed start. So we would call ramp and make sure that the area behind the aircraft is clear, which it is. It's also a simulator. Crossbleed starts, we talked about this, are not permitted during pushback or under tow. And make sure the parking brake is set, which it is. So engine bleed air switches are on. They are. APU bleed switch off. This is important because you don't want to back pressure the APU. Pack switches off. So the left pack and the right pack are going to come off. Isolation valve to auto. All right, which ensures bleed air source for engine start. Engine thrust lever for the operating engine run up to 30 psi. So we're going to come up and run up to 30 psi. So about there. All right, and then you set the throttle to 30 psi, and then when you start the other engine, that's going to drop. That's fine. You want to set 30 psi. So let me zoom in on the gauge so I can show you guys here. So we're looking at this duct pressure gauge, and I just throttled up until the pressure was sitting right at 30 psi. All right, so there it is. It's up at 30 psi, and now we'll go ahead and execute starter to ground. There we go. And then you can see when you go starter to ground, the duct pressure drops, but that's okay. You just keep the RPM on the operating engine where it was to get 30 psi before you open the start valve. V1, yeah, you absolutely can back pressure the APU. There is a check valve. There is a check valve right here that if it is functioning correctly will stop you. But if there's an issue with that check valve where it's slow to close, you can absolutely damage the APU due to back pressure. All right. There's fuel, engine and spar valves, 10 seconds for light off. There it goes. 2-minute starter duty cycle. And we're verifying here 56%. The starter should cut out. There's 56. Starter cut out. Reset the clock. Looking for the EGT marker to go away. All right, that is a good start. After starter cutout, adjust thrust on both engines. So we'll bring the operating one to idle. All right, and then we can do our after start flow. So we can go generator, probe heat, hides, set the air panel up, which this is correct. APU's off, fuel pumps. Check the recall. We're going to get a zone temp. All right, air conditioning, and now we can go to the zone temp issue. So let's do the delayed after start checklist. So delayed after start checklist, generator is on, anti-ice not required, air conditioning panel is set with the zone temp, and recall is checked. Delayed after start check is complete. Okay, now into the zone temp. Dive into the QRH. No memory items associated with the zone temp light. So, zone temp light. Condition, one or more of these occur. A zone temp duct overheat or the flight deck temperature controller has failed. If the zone temp light illuminates only during recall and extinguishes when the master caution is depressed, then the backup controller has failed. QRH procedure does not apply. Okay, so temperature selector, select a cooler temperature in the affected cabin. So this is the control cabin, or the cockpit rather. This prevents the trim air modulating valve from returning to an overheat condition. Okay, and trip reset button push. So we'll hit the trip reset, zone temp light goes out, and monitor the duct pressure. If the duct temperature in the control cabin rises rapidly, which it's not, it's fairly steady, then set the trim air switch to off. Okay, it's good. Trim air switch is fine. Affected cabin temperature is normal. It's the cockpit. It's normal. It's right around 75. Then end of procedure. All right, so that is complete. We'll check the recall. Got a good recall, and we are finally ready to taxi. All right, that is complete. So after start checklist complete, salute receives, set flap 5, flap lever 5, call for taxi. All right, we got 30 more seconds of warm up here, and brakes released, and we'll taxi out 3-4 left. Sorry for the delay, folks. Just had a quick little mechanical issue that we had to work through. Everything is completed. The issue's been resolved, and we are on our way to Las Vegas. Alrighty. Taxi light comes on, and we are out of here. Water. Oh yeah, we're working for a living, man. We got failures enabled and all the things. All right, so the captain would check the rudders. FO checks the tops, so full aft, full forward. Check the roll while the yoke is full forward so you don't catch the captain's gut with the yoke. They check good. All right, taxi checklist. Flaps are 5 on the handle, 5 on the FMS, 5 on the gauge with a green light. Takeoff speeds are 36, 38, 42 set. Thrust is TO 49, stab trim 4.5, and flight controls are checked. Taxi check complete. B1, never fly an American again. Delayed to Vegas. I'm going to lose time on my slot machine. Dude, it's saving you money, man. It's the fiscally responsible decision. I'm legit exhausted for you. Yeah, we haven't even got off the ground yet, man. All right. Got warm-up time on the engines. And we're taxiing out. Here we go. Nav brief. We're taking off. Runway 34 left out of Seattle. We're on the Arches 1 Milford transition. First fix is scant. It's a vector departure. Vector departure in heading mode up to 9,000 feet. Questions? No questions. All right. Get our seatbelt on here. And I'm going to jump in here. So the first thing that I wanted to do, you know, I was going to demo an aborted takeoff, but we'll just, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the engine failure into the sim, and I'm going to set it on a timer, and we're just going to see when it happens. And if it happens at or after V1, we'll take it flying. If it happens at or before V1, we'll do whatever we would do. All right. So there we go. Diabetic lad. Bastards are twice the price of Spirit. Dude, every airline in the world is twice the price of Spirit, man. I don't know how Spirit does it, dude. It's like, hey, we'll fly you from Seattle to Tampa for 35 bucks. And then charge you 50 bucks for a cup of water. Okay. End of the runways in sight, so we'll go continuous. Auto throttle is armed. Slam the throttles. Those look, doors. We'll check that. TARA. And look at this. Okay. Left and right forward over wing doors. This is a PMDG-ism. We'll stop the hold short here. Real world, if you had an issue taxiing out, you'd probably talk to HC and say, hey, can we pull over onto the de-ice pad so we're not clogging traffic up? And actually, you know what? We'll do that. We'll pull over here. We'll say that they cleared us onto the de-ice pad for troubleshooting. Ladies and gentlemen, from the cockpit, one more issue with our airplane that we got to check out. So we'll be sidelined here for 1 second, get the issue resolved, and we'll be on our way momentarily. All right. Spirit is the Waffle House of airlines. Reminds me of the time my buddy went into a Waffle House hammered at 2 a.m. and tried to order a pancake. All right. Let's see. All right, we're jumping back into the old QRH here. Left and right forward over wing doors. So go alphabetical here. Left forward over wing. Select. All right. Sandman, let me off this airplane. I demand to get off this airplane. Return to the gate. We're going, boys. All right. Choose one. Pressurization is normal. Doors in a safe configuration as long as the cabin pressure is normal. Continue operation. Pressurization is not normal. Plan to return to the nearest suitable airport. Okay. That's written for in-flight. On the ground, we would definitely call maintenance and get their opinion on this. That said, talking to PMDG, they insist that this used to be a big deal on the 7.3 and that when you ran the engines up on takeoff, the doors would seal and those lights would go out. So according to them, you'd run it up, you'd see it was those doors, you'd continue the takeoff and the lights would go out. I was not flying the NG when it first came out, so I can't speak to whether that's correct or not. I can tell you that in 2025, those lights would be a no-go for takeoff, as it is now. So like right now, we would call maintenance, we'd get them on the horn and figure it out from there. But you would not start a takeoff roll with those lights like that. Now, if you were rolling down the runway at, say, 100 knots, and you got a doors annunciator, and you looked up and saw this, you would absolutely continue the takeoff because you wouldn't abort for it. But we're going to run the engines up. We're going to get a doors. We're going to continue, but that's absolutely a simism. So, cool. All right. Joe Plains, yeah, this is PacSim KSLC. Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've sort of kind of fixed the issue. We're going to take off anyway. There's your captain. All right. Here we go. So we're taxiing back out, get the taxi light back on. All right, here comes a before takeoff checklist. Call the back, make sure they're good. All right, runway position. We've got 3-4 left full length in the box, 3-4 left full length outside. Flaps are 5-5 green. Nav briefing is complete. Takeoff warning is checked. Auto throttles are armed. Engine start switches are continuous. Transponder is TARA, and the flight attendants are notified and acknowledged. Before takeoff check is complete. All right. Sandman, did he just say sword effects? Who is this guy? I've not had my PA training yet, so, you know, we'll get to that part. Listen to these Boris sounds. There we go. Okay, entering an active runway. Lights come on. Oh, so from a human factor standpoint, the strobe and the wing light are kind of cool because you just take your hand up and you put your pointer finger in front of the strobe and your thumb behind the wing and twist your hand and you turn them both on at the same time. Super satisfying. All right. Not going to evaluate my lineup because I don't taxi. V1 just switched seats to 11A. Oh, dude, my last trip, the captain handed it to me on the roll, and I don't taxi, so I didn't know how effective the brakes were, and I put in just a little bit of brake and slammed everybody into their seats. So that's going to take some learning at some point. All right, we are cleared for takeoff. Lights are on. Here we go, chat. Hope nothing goes wrong. Forward on the yoke. Run them up to 40%. Okay, they're stable. Spooling up symmetrically. There's 40. You all set? Yep, we're all set. Here we go. And one toga. Ooh, Blackbird. Lineup's in sim. About to get a lot better. My man.
Airspeed alive.
All right. 80 knots. Neutralize forward pressure. Rotate. All right, master caution. Keep it on the ground for a second. Get your rudder figured out. And we're going to rotate. A little bit of aileron. Nice smooth rotation. All right, there's positive rate.
Positive rate.
Gear up. All right. Engine failure on the left, it looks like. Cancel the master caution. First step is runway heading and tell tower. So we're going to go heading mode at 400 feet on runway heading. All right, there's 400 feet. Go heading mode. And auto throttle can come off. That's clicked off. A little bit more left rudder here. All right, auto throttle is off. We told the tower, and now the pilot flying. Once we get to 1,000 feet or so, we'll go ahead and execute the memory items. So for engine failure, we've got auto throttle is off if engaged, disengage, and then throttle affected engine, confirm, so left, and idle. We can bring that one to idle. All right, there's acceleration height, so we'll bug the 1 speed. So we're going to bug the 1 speed, and then we're going to start the APU as a technique, and then we're going to trim as the airplane accelerates. All right. There we go. All right, so we're accelerating, letting the airplane get up to that 1 speed. All right, we're above the flap 5 maneuver speed, flaps to 1. And then as long as we're below the flap 1 maneuver speed with the flaps in 1, we just need to limit our angle of bank to 15 degrees or less. All right. The airplane actually flies pretty decent this way. Okay. Now we've got to our 1 speed, so now we can do the last step of our procedure, which is LCAN. So we'll go level change at the 1 speed. We'll go continuous power, so we're going to have the other pilot go into the McDo and select continuous, max continuous power, and then we're going to manually set that with the throttle. All right, so we'll set max continuous there, about 96.8%. All right, and then we're going to do the after takeoff and the non-normal checklist. So we're going to get up to 7,000 feet. We're going to engage the autopilot. Or first we're going to trim the rudder, and then we're going to engage the autopilot. 1,000 to go. And I'm trimming the pressure off of the rudder. All right. Get the ball centered. You want to hand the autopilot an airplane that's as close to in trim as you can. There we go. All right. There it is. And Command B. There we go. There's Command. All right, so level change, continuous. We're leveling at 7,000. Now we'll do the after takeoff checklist, just the standard after takeoff checklist. All right, APU is going to stay on in this case. Auto brakes come off. After takeoff checklist, which is a silent checklist, you just make sure that you did it in your own head here, reading off the list. So we'll do it out loud so you can tell what I'm doing. Flaps are staying at 1, landing gear is up and off. Packs are in auto, engine bleeds are on. Pressurization is checked, engine start switches and APU. All right, after takeoff check is complete. We're leveling here at 7,000. We're going to go up to 210 knots, which is a pretty comfortable maneuvering speed, and then we'll bust out the non-normal checklist here. The auto throttle does not work in a single engine state, so you do have to manually fly the airplane here. As far as the throttles go. All right. Let's see. Bro knew it was coming and still identified the wrong engine. Yeah, because when I was practicing, I did the other engine. All right. AJ Fernari with the $3 super chat. Thanks, man. Toggle switch is greater than Corey. Full manual control. Totally agree, man. Yep. This is full total manual control here. All right. So this is where it gets busy in a single pilot aircraft. So the pilot flying and the pilot monitoring, right now one guy would be flying, the other guy would be monitoring. So what we'll do is we're going to set up a hold at Ogden, and next hold. Oh, I got to put it in first, so I got to go put in legs page, Ogden, execute, a little bit more power. Then go hold, next hold at Ogden, down here. That's good enough. And then we'll go LNAV into the hold. Okay, so we've got a hold set. Actually, you know what? I want left turns because I don't want to be turning into the dead engine. So we'll never do. There we go. We'll set up a hold. Obviously, the pilot flying would be coordinating this with ATC, but we're going to go into a hold, and then we're going to execute our emergency procedures in said hold. This hold should keep us clear of terrain, it looks like, which we can also see over there, so that works fine. Now we're going to climb up to a safer altitude, so we're going to go, call it 10,000 feet, and we'll level change up there at 210. All right, so we'll set continuous. We'll set continuous by hand, and we'll level change up and let the autopilot take care of it. And we'll go up to, and actually we're in Salt Lake, so we'll go up to 14,000 because that'll be 10,000 AGL. Obviously coordinating with ATC, etc. Okay, that's taken care of. Now, the pilot who's diving into the QRH, in this case the captain, will pull out the QRH while the FO flies, trim the rudder a little bit, and we're going to run the engine failure checklist. So the first thing we have to do is diagnose what happened. So in this case, we obviously have an engine that failed, but the airplane, the EECS, will automatically attempt to restart an engine that simply failed due to, you know, a flameout. And in that case, you may not even see, the engine may roll back, and then by the time you get everything squared away, the engine may actually reignite. In this case, however, the EECS obviously either did not attempt or were not able to relight the engine. So we have an engine failure message on the ICAS. We have no rotation of the N1 or N2 shafts. So that's where we're going to go to the engine severe damage or separation checklist, because if the engine simply failed, then we would likely have N2 and N1 rotation. We don't, so something has damaged the engine internally to the point where it's not rotating anymore. So we'll select the engine severe damage or separation checklist, and we'll go ahead and verify that we've executed those steps. Max racing. Yep, flaps are still at 1. That's intentional because I want to give myself, I want to hold at 210 knots, but I want to give myself some maneuver margin in case we get a little slow. So flap 1 is kind of the configuration that we like to be in at 210 knots, because you can see here, if we retract the flaps, we're basically right at the upspeed. And so if we got slow, we don't have as much kind of room. And flap 1 is a very low drag configuration. You can see it's almost all slat. It's the leading edge devices and then very little trailing edge flap. So flap 1 is kind of our happy place for troubleshooting when we're single engine. Okay, so the first thing that we do in any emergency is we verify that the bolt face was done correctly. So the bolt face in this case was auto throttle if engaged, disengaged. That was completed. And thrust lever affected engine confirm and closed, which was the number 2 engine, which we confirmed and closed. So the bolt face was correctly done. Engine start lever of the affected engine, confirm cutoff. So the start lever on the right, we'd confirm it with the other guy and shut it down. All right, engine fire switch of the affected engine, confirm and pull. So that's going to be the right one. Number 2, confirm, yes, pull it. Don't rotate it, just pull it out. Okay, and that just, you know, cuts fuel, etc., but isn't going to deploy the fire extinguisher. All right, if the engine fire or overheat light is illuminated, which it is not, then rotate to the hold, stop and hold for 1 second. It is not, so we're not going to rotate the fire handle. In flight, go to step 7. If after 30 seconds the engine fire switch or overheat light stays illuminated, rotate to the other stop. So this is basically saying you have 2 squibs for each engine. So if the engine's on fire, you would rotate this to the right. It would blow the right bottle. If it doesn't work in 30 seconds, blow the other bottle. And you can blow the left bottle into the right engine and vice versa. So that doesn't affect us today. All right, step 8. High airframe vibration occurs and continues after the engine is shut down. That is not the case for us. So we're going to go to step 9, which is isolation valve closed. All right, so the isolation valve is going to be closed. Pack switch affected side off. So in this case, the affected side is the right side, so we're going to go pack switch right, off. And that's going to send the left pack to high flow once we bring the flaps up, if we get there. All right, APU bleed air switch off, and that's MEL for us today, so not a factor for us. Choose one. The APU is available for start. That is correct. APU to start. That's already been completed. When the APU is running, APU generator switch on the affected engine on. So in this case, it's the right side. We're going to put the APU gen on, and since we're operating on the right autopilot, or Command B, and we're changing the right electrical bus, that's going to kick the autopilot off. So we could either disengage the autopilot and swap electrical sources, swap electrical sources and just be aware the autopilot's going to kick off, or we can go Command A, Command B will extinguish, and now we can swap the electricals without worry, and then go back to Command B. All right. That is complete. We've still got another 3,000 feet to climb. All right. APU is running gen affected side on. That's complete. All right. Step 13. Balance fuel as needed. You can see that we've already developed an imbalance here. We're down to 4.6 on the one side because the fuel system is separated by a crossfeed valve, and the center tank and the left pumps feed the left engine, the center tank and the right pumps feed the right engine. In this case, since we only have a left engine operating, we need to free up right engine fuel to feed the left engine. So the way we're going to do that is by crossfeeding. So do a good thing before you do a bad thing, and then pick on the little guy. And what I mean by that is do a good thing, so turn on a crossfeed. You'll see the valve light goes bright blue when it's in transit, and then dark blue or dim blue when it matches the switch position, before you do a bad thing. And now you're going to pick on the little guy. So the low tank is the left tank, so we're going to turn off the left tank pumps. Okay? And then as a technique, we're going to leave the master caution illuminated, the master caution fuel illuminated, and I screwed it up because I clicked it. In this case, what we can do is we can go auto brake RTO. And what this does, oh, okay, that doesn't work like it does in the real airplane. If you go RTO in flight in the real airplane, it gives you an auto brake disarm light, and it gives you a bright orange light there that tells you it's an attention getter. Okay, so we're balancing fuel. All right, transponder mode to TA only. So we're going to come down here, and we're going to go TA only on the transponder, and that prevents any climb commands that exceed your single engine performance capability. Okay, isolation valve. Once any fire has been extinguished, auto. All right, so we're going to go isolation valve to auto. And what this guy does is it ensures that bleed air is available to both wings if we need anti-ice. So if we need wing anti-ice, you can kind of see here, if this isolation valve was closed and we only have a left engine running, the right wing will not get anti-ice bleed air unless the isolation valve is in auto. All right, so that is complete. And then plan to land at the nearest suitable airport. Do not use FMS performance predictions. So what it means is do not use the performance predictions for fuel en route, etc. As far as how much gas you're going to arrive with, because your assumptions are out to lunch. All right, we're going to give it a little bit more right rudder trim here. Help balance it out. There it is. Okay, procedure complete. So now we just plan for a single engine inoperative landing, which is non-normal checklist 716, which we are going to go to now. So you can actually see that now that the emergency procedure is completed for a single engine, the airplane actually flies pretty good. The autopilot works, and the only real thing that's really non-normal, besides one engine being out, is the auto throttle is in op. But other than that, it's flying great. We have plenty of maneuvering margin, so life is good. We're clearing the terrain here, so at this point, things are getting significantly better for us. Okay, one engine inoperative landing. Condition: landing must be made with one engine inoperative. That's correct. Step 1, plan on a flap 15 landing. So we're going to go down to approach ref, and we're going to select flap 15, and ref is 150. All right. So my favorite flap setting, flap 15, selected. All right. Set VREF 15 or VREF 15 ice. VREF ice. So if you've selected wing anti-ice at any time during flight, the SMID, the stall management yaw damper computer, shifts from normal law, normal gain, if you will, to ice gains. And what that is that assumes that there are 3 inches of ice buildup on the horizontal stabilizer. And that's what it uses for its calculations, which is an enormous amount of ice. Like 3 inches of ice is I mean, that's a lot. If you haven't used wing anti-ice at all during the flight, so this even applies if you took off and turned the wing anti-ice on for 10 seconds after takeoff, the valve switched, and then you turned it off again, the SMID is now in ice gains for the rest of that flight until weight on wheels. So if you've ever used it, then you have to use VREF ice. In addition, if the engine anti-ice will be on during landing, or if icing conditions were encountered during flight and the landing temp is below 10°C. Okay. In that case, VREF ice is just VREF 15 plus 10. Otherwise, we're going to use VREF 15 and then do our normal additive math. So let's take a look at the weather in Salt Lake. Salt Lake weather, 320 at 10 knots. We'll take half the headwind, which will be 5. So we'll just use a 5-knot additive to our 155, which will be, or to our 150, which will be 155 knots. Okay. Check the abnormal configuration landing distance and speed chart. So 1,000 to go. So we'll check the ODM. I'm not going to run this. It's just in our performance charts, but it's just an inoperative engine landing distance table to basically make sure that you can land on the available runway at flap 15. 150 knot VREF on a 12,000 foot runway is not going to be a factor, so we'll consider that run. Okay, maintain VREF 15 plus wind additive or VREF ice plus wind additive on final approach to assure sufficient maneuver margin and speed for the go around. The minimum wind additive is 5 knots, so that's what we're going to use. When engine anti-ice is needed, use it on the operating engine only. Checklist complete except for deferred items. Okay, so we're good. We're going to use flap 15, and now we can set up for the landing. So we're going to go back to Zippy. Even at altitude, what's your question? Let's see. We're going to set for 3-4 left. So we need to go in the box, and we're going to go departures and arrivals, Salt Lake City, ILS to 3-4 left, and we're just going to pull it off of Dunlap is fine, so we can execute that. And then we'll go out here. We're going to get vectors. We can go Dunlap to the top, 344 course in, Bigify, and execute. Zippy, yeah, 12. You're right. 12,000 foot runway is high elevation, but mainly it's just I don't feel like. Oh, I just deleted the hold. Whoops. All right, we'll say that we were pressing out to start our approach anyway, so we'll go 170. You're correct. And in real life, like in my recurrent sim, we're obviously going to dive in to the performance charts to make sure that we can make the landing distance, but it's just not something I want to do right now. But real world, we would absolutely run that. Okay, so now we're set up. We've exited the hold. We've talked to ATC. Hey, we want to land on runway 3-4 left at Salt Lake. Roll the trucks. We're at a low gross weight, so 132.9, so we don't have to worry about heavy gross weight landing or anything like that. But we would let tower know, hey, heads up, you know, that we're coming in with an emergency. So, yeah, absolutely, Zippy. That was a good catch there on that. So we're heading down to the south here. We're going to pick up the approach in. We're setting up, so this is no different than your typical landing. We're going to build it twice, so 344 and 111.9. So we're going to switch those over. We're going to check the points in the box compared to our nav data, which we did. Okay. That's built twice. We're going to bug it twice. So once in the FMS for approach speed and once for the mins, 44.29. So we bugged it twice. We're going to break it. We're going to use break 3, and then we're going to brief it. So for the brief, we checked the NOTAMs. Nothing specific there. For the arrival, we're on emergency arrival, so we're not going to worry about flying the star. We're just going to get vectors in. We're going to trim the rudder a little bit. In the 7.3, the yoke is a real good indicator that you're out of rudder trim. You want to trim the rudder until the yoke is level. And you can see that we're creeping up on our speed too, so we're going to pull the speed back manually a little bit. No arrival. For the approach, it's going to be the ILS to 34 left, which is 111.9, 344 on the final approach course. Intercepting the glide slope at 6,100 feet. At flag. The go around will be 6,000 feet. And it'll be a single engine go around, which means it'll be manual if we have to do it. Up to 6,000 feet, and then it'll look the same. Other than that, so that's the approach going down to mins of 44.29, 12,000 foot long runway, flap 15. If we end up having to go around, it'll be go around flap 1 due to single engine, which is why there's a gate on the flap 1 position on the handle. For terrain, there is terrain. It's a factor. It'll be up on my side. The valley should keep us safe. There's no engine out departure if we do end up going around. Threats, we're single engine, and so we'll be manually operating the throttles. And for special company pages, nothing in Salt Lake that refers to engine out other than the company pages for the departure that's southbound. We're going to go into the fixed page and go build our 10 and 15 DME rings for situational awareness purposes. And we can start a descent. We'll just kind of vector ourselves on the downwind here. And we'll start a descent down to 8,000 feet. And this would obviously all be coordinated with ATC, but down to 8,000 feet, level change, and we'll bring the throttles back a little bit and start the descent. V1, we may go around, man. What if Southwest is on the runway, dude? What if some Airbus guy is looking at the straight table and clobbers the runway, and it's either land on top of him or go around? So we may actually do a single engine go around. We'll see. We'll take a look and see. All right, descending downhill. Flap 580 knots, or the flap 5 maneuvering speed is kind of the place we want to live. Oh, let's see. Off-skid descent. Okay, so air conditioning, off-skid descent acknowledged. The off-skid descent light, this is a pretty cool feature of the Boeing. You set your cruise altitude in the auto window, or the flight altitude window, in the automatic mode of the pressurization panel. If you begin a descent before you reach this altitude, so in this case we went up to 14,000 feet, but we began our descent before we reach this altitude. In that case, the pressurization controller will reference your departure airfield altitude and not the landing altitude. So that's what this off-skid descent light is telling you, is that it says, hey boss, you descended before you reached your cruise altitude, which tells me something's wrong, so I'm going to pressurize the airplane based on your takeoff altitude and not based off of your landing altitude. So off-skid descent light, that's expected. If I had been thinking about it, you could set this up, spin this up to 4150 and spin this down to 40. You could do all that, but in this case, the jet is smart enough to take care of you. So descend down to 8,000 feet. We got the green banana out in front of us, and we want to configure the airplane to flap 5 and reference 180 knots to begin our approach. So we're going to go vertical speed. About 1100 is fine. We're going to go flap 5. And we're going to spin the speed back down to 180. V1, in that case, if your takeoff alternate is different, then you have to set the panel back up with the landing altitude at your arrival field. All right, so we're through 18,000 feet, so we can do a descent check. And that's going to come out of the QRH procedure. So descent checklist, altimeters are 3002, cross-checked. Minimums are Barrow 4429, cross-checked. Landing data is flap 15, ref 150 or 149 with VREF 15. Approach briefing is complete. Auto brakes are 3. Seatbelt signs are on. Captain would have been talking to the passengers about all this too as well. Pressurization panel is set, and the recall is checked. So we have fuel, electric, hide, that's all associated with one engine, and air conditioning for the off-skid descent. That all checks good. All right. We should not need additional go-around thrust. So if we did, we could do a no engine bleed landing. Shouldn't be a factor for us. Our go-around performance was fine on takeoff, so it should be good to go. Go-around procedure review. We talked about this. Use flap 1. Maintain VREF 15 plus 5 until reaching flap retraction altitude, and the 15 degree bank angle limit that we've all talked about on the beginning of the stream. All right. And 10,000 feet, approach check says flight nav instruments are verified. Cabin notification is complete, and altimeters are 3002, cross-checked. Approach check complete. All right. You'll also notice that we're flying a left-hand pattern so that we're not going to do any big turns into the failed engine. All right. Additional deferred items. Flap inhibit switch is going to go to inhibit, and fuel imbalance monitor. We are monitoring that. Still looking good. All right. Joe Plains. It remembers. No, it just takes the snapshot of the altitude that the airplane was at in the altimeter on takeoff. Stephen Hayner, ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain speaking. Make peace with God at this time. All right, 1,000 to go. We're getting close to this mountain, but that's ATC's problem. All right. This is Kennecott Copper Mine, by the way. World's largest open pit copper mine. All right, we'll start a turn here. There we are. Remember, you're manually controlling the throttles, so we're getting a little fast. But my theory all through pilot training and everything that I ever did in an airplane was 10 knots slow generally won't kill you, but 10 knots fast generally won't kill you, but 10 knots slow might. So if I have to err on one side, definitely going to err on the side of being a little bit fast. But we're professionals, so we want to be on. All right, heading 070. Oh, Stephen Hayner, you used to live right off the left wing? No kidding. It's a cool spot. All right. So we're going to intercept around Dunlop, and actually we'll say that ATC is going to bring us inside the final approach, or in towards the final approach fix. So in that case, we can go flag up to the top, Bigify 344, execute, and we're cleared down to 6,100 feet. We'll do it in vertical speed mode, try and be a little smooth. There we go. Down 1,000. And we'll stealth vector in. A couple ways you can intercept the inbound course. In this case, we're going to do an LNAV intercept. The book says to be careful about this because it can delay your intercept. Power's coming back a little more. Of the actual ILS freak, but it's a smoother intercept because the jet can kind of pre-calculate its path. So what you do is you just wait until the airplane's wings level. Okay. And then once the airplane's wings level, just hit LNAV and watch this line here. You'll see it draw an LNAV path that smoothly joins the course. There it is. So the dotted line goes away and it joins, it draws an LNAV that intercepts the final approach course. Okay, we're below the glide slope, so we can slow the rate of descent down here so we don't get down too low outside. So we'll just go down at 200 feet a minute. That'll help us decelerate as well. All right. And sorry, Chad, I'm probably missing a lot of messages, but this is definitely a workload-intensive flight, single pilot. All right, so we got the flap 15, landing procs inhibited. We've definitely declared an emergency at this point with ATC, so they're notified. We're going down to 6,100 feet, which is what ATC cleared us to. We're doing it in vertical speed mode at 200 feet a minute, which means there's no airspeed protection, so you have to hawk your airspeed and be a pilot. Full total manual control is fun for bragging rights, but sometimes you got to actually back it up. All right, there we go. We can see the loc is centering up. So once it intercepts the loc, we'll go heading to course of 344. All right. And now, that's looking good. Let's bring the flight recorder up here, chat, while I'm thinking about it. Okay. And now we can go Vorloc. All right. Recorder is on. Okay. We're looking good. Zippy, I missed your dig at SWA. Oh no, dude, chat. I want to look back and look at all the messages because I'm certain I'm missing stuff. All right, there's the view that Zippy's got out the left wing. All right, glide slope is coming alive. So when we're in 1 dot to go is when we want to dirty up. And as a technique, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to hit alt hold. The jet's going to capture, whatever we're at, 6750, and we're just going to intercept the glide slope here. So we're going to select approach mode, arm glide slope, and then I'm going to set our missed approach altitude for 6,000. All right, there's 1 dot above. Here comes gear down, flap 15. All right, start switch on the operating engine only, which is the left, and arm the speed brake. All right, and then we're going to go command bug and set 155, which you can see, and PMDG actually got this right, that the flap 15 speed is VREV 15 plus 5 knots. All right. Okay, we've got our speed brake armed, throttle is back here. We're going to trim the rudder out because we're at a reduced power setting. All right, and we're going to do the landing checklist out of the QRH for single engine, which says landing gear is down, flaps are 15-15 green, speed brake is armed, start switch on the operating engine is continuous, end of procedure. All right, we're getting a little slow, so we'll add the power. All right, and all right. There we go. The real jet does significantly better with. All right, we're done. We're gonna disconnect the autopilot. Autopilot's fired. All right. Full total manual control. And again, the Chad, do you guys want to see a single engine go around, or should we take this to the landing? We can demo an aborted takeoff as well after this, but it's up to you guys if you want to see a single engine go around or not. The real 7.3 is a real nice flying airplane. It flies beautifully single engine, or at least the sim does. Let's see, Bill's Mafia says go around. Diabetic Lad says do it. Zippy says see what happens. All right, I'm on the Vazzy. We're medium rare on the Pappies out there. There we go. Back down. All right, so the big thing about a single engine go around is one, go in flap one, and two, just a big push on the rudder to keep the airplane straight. So Salt Lake Tower, Spirit 357, hold short 34 left. Tower, Spirit 357 from Tower, where are you going? Oh, we forgot, man. We didn't know we were supposed to hold short. Sorry about that. All right, go around. All right, so hit the toggle buttons. Power comes up. Go around, flap one. All right. Positive rate. Gear up. Toga verified.
Too low, gear.
All right.
Too low, gear.
There we go.
Too
We're
low,
climbing away.
Too
At 400
low,
feet, we're
gear.
going to verify roll mode, which will
Too
be
low,
heading.
Gear.
All right, there's
Too
heading
low,
mode.
gear. Too low,
There we
gear.
are. We shouldn't be getting that gear horn. All right, maintain no less than VREF 15 plus 5 knots, which is 155. All right, we're in toga mode, which is that's a fine for a climb mode. We're going to stay in that to 1,000. And I wonder if PMDG just didn't. Yeah. So with the throttles up like this, we should not be getting the gear horn. There it goes. All right, 1,000 feet. Now it's just like the V1 cut. So we're going to bug the flap one speed. All right, start the APU and trim. All right. All right, and trim the rudder out. And Spirit 357, we got a number for you to call. All right, 6,000 feet, there's Altiquire. We'll go ahead and select autopilot. There's Command B. And now we'll bug 210 knots and accelerate, and we're going to leave it at flap one. Okay, we're going to trim the rudder, help the autopilot out here. All right. Go back to N1. Select continuous. After takeoff checklist. Anti-ice bleeds are still set up. That's off. APU is set. Auto brakes and landing gear handle. Non-normal checklist. Nothing to add there. It's 210 knots. We'll box around and do it again. So as you can see, not the end of the world. The airplane has pretty good go-around performance, single engine, so it does fairly well. All right, so we'll just stay at 6,000 feet, which is 2,000 AGL, roughly. And arc ourselves around. Saboteur 357. I think Spirit 357 did that intentionally. All right. So we've still got our ground prox warning switch flip for the flap 15 landing. And we'll go ahead and reset to brake 3. De-arm the speed brakes. And do it again. Okay. We do have to reload the box, so we would hand over control to the other pilot. We'll go 3-4 left, execute, legs page, flag to the top, bigify, and execute. All right, that's squared away. Joe Plane, similar performance on the 9. Yeah, the 900 actually has pretty good performance. It's because it's got bigger engines, and it's really not as much of a dog as everyone thinks it is. I mean, if you're heavy, I guess it can be kind of a slug, but It's not terrible. It's definitely, keep in mind, all the performance numbers that are used on a daily basis in any airliner are predicated upon success with an engine out. So, you know, the V1, VR, V2 numbers that you use every day are predicated on banging an engine at the absolute worst possible time. So, you know, that's why sometimes in Flight Sim it'll say, you know, no possible takeoff numbers, and you'll say, well, wait a minute, I got off the ground, no problem. Well, you wouldn't have if you lost an engine. All right, power comes back. Zippy, yeah, it's got CFM 56. I think they're 26K engine or 27K engines instead of 26s. And you can tell if you go ident right here, engine rating is 26K on the 800. On the 900, they're 27K engines, so you get 1,000 pounds more per side on the 900. So if you're flying at similar weights, then it flies better. Yeah, Stephen Hainer. Out of Denver, it can turn into a pig. That's for sure. Okay, we're abeam the runway, so we'll go flap 5. Kind of get into our desired approach configuration here. Oh, Zippy, no, like yeah, they're not physically bigger fans. It's just a higher thrust rating. Sorry. Okay, we've got terrain ahead of us, so let's climb. This would obviously be ATC's problem in real life, but we'll go level change 210. Continuous thrust is 96.8, so we'll manually set that. All right, fuel's still looking good. If we got to the point where this got down to around 2,000 pounds, then you would secure your crossfeed, but we're going to leave it open for now. It is out of balance, Bill. Yeah, or Brent, if we can, we're going to burn about 1,000 pounds, so 3 point. Yeah, we can actually shut that off and it will stay balanced now, so we can go like that. Do a good thing before you do a bad thing. Pressure lights and crossfeed. There we go. And now it'll burn about 1,000 pounds going around the pattern, so we should land fairly close to in balance. Right, just climbing for this terrain here. All right, we'll center up the rudder trim again. I'm actually fairly impressed with how the PMDG is flying right now. It's doing a fairly decent job. Okay. So we'll zoom out on our ND here. We're outside a flag, but we're climbing to 8,000. We can stop it at 7. So we'll go alt hold, that'll stop the climb. We'll set 7,000 in the window. We invert speed down to 7. There we go. Alt hold, perfect. All right, 070. Now that we're away from the terrain, we'll see where this puts us on glide slope. Okay, and now we want to slow to 180 knots as we turn in. 180 or the flap 5 maneuver speed, whichever is lower. Okay. This is a little bit tighter than I would want to roll in real life. In real world, I'd probably tell ATC I wanted maybe a 15-mile final. There's that off-skid descent light again. But for today's purposes, this works fine. Okay, so we're doing 210 over the ground, so we should turn in around 2.1 DME. Oh, chat. Yeah, He was putting his kid down. He knows what happened. He knows what happened. All right, 015 to intercept. There's 1 dot above on the glide slope. We'll just intercept at 7. All right. There we go. We'll intercept an LNAV. And the cool thing about the 7.3 MCP is that you can actually see the cascading order of your approach. Is start an LNAV, go to Vorlope, then approach. So that's, you know, the order of these buttons. It's not just random. Okay. All right, there's the glide slope. We'll arm approach. Vorlope. Glide slope, gear down, flap 15.
2500.
Command bug. Speed is 148, so it'll be 153 command bug. We'll actually set 155, that's fine. All right, set the operating engine to continuous, arm the speed brakes, and down we go. Glide slope, 6,000 set for the mist. We're clear to land, lights are on. Landing check, we got gears down 3 green, flaps are 15, 15, green light, speed brake is arm, start switch is continuous. Landing check complete. All right, and then we'll try and trim out the rudder now for our new configuration. And the slip skid ball is right here on top of the PFD. That's what I'm looking at when I'm trimming. Okay. There's the old flap 15 wang. All right. All right, chat. We'll take this one to a full stop. The go-arounds in the 7.3 are all manually flown, total full manual control, with the exception of if the airplane is configured for an auto land with both autopilots engaged and you hit the toga button, the airplane will fly the go-around completely automatically.
1000.
But it's very important. I see a lot of sim pilots engage both autopilots on every ILS. It's important that you don't do that because when both autopilots are engaged at 400 feet, the airplane rolls in a bunch of nose-up trim because it uses trim to flare the airplane. So if you have both autopilots engaged, the trim rolls in for the trim bias for an auto land, and then you disconnect the autopilot to hand fly a go-around or to hand fly the airplane. It takes a pretty manly push on the yoke to keep the airplane from pitching up on you. All right, time to fly here. Oh, wrong seat. All right, disconnect. Autopilot kind of put us high there. That's fine. All right, 155.
Approaching minimums.
We're outside on the Pappy, so I feel tall coming down on the Pappy, which is I feel that way in real life in Salt Lake as well. A little high. It's fine.
50, 40, 30, 20.
Flare at 20.
10.
Close them out. Close them out. Rudder to keep it straight. All right. Speed brake up. All right, set the nose down. You can use the good reverser. Just be aware of its effect on directional control. There's 80 knots out of reverse. Manual brakes. And now, since the airplane's not on fire, we're going to clear the runway. You know, depending on what your emergency was, you could think about evacuating on the runway. For today, we're going to taxi back, and I do want to do an aborted takeoff, and then we'll talk about like an evacuation and that kind of stuff, just so we can walk through some of those considerations. But I'm going to stop the recording. All right. There we go. Oh, hey, Turk's in the house to complain about PMDG. Welcome, Turk. All right, so we would obviously not be taxiing back for a takeoff after that, but we're going to suspend disbelief. All right. So we'll clean up the airplane. And actually, I'm just going to, we'll keep taxiing there, and I'll get the other engine relit as we taxi. There we go. So that's a V1 cut to a V1 cut to a single engine go around to a single engine landing. The airplane is taxiing like crap because we've got the trim in there. So we'll do that. The ground handling, yeah, is not great. It's not Phoenix level for sure. Although Phoenix has had 5 or 6 different iterations of ground handling. But I will say that the current Phoenix ground handling is pretty fantastic. All right, we'll go options, failures, active, clear. All right. There we go. Hey, Vodka got off the couch. Welcome, dude. All right, let's set the bleed panel back up. We'll say the APU suddenly started working, and we'll start the right engine. Yeah, but in FSX it was okay. Because that was our standard for ground handling back in the day. Oh, packs off. The engine will actually spin up with the packs on. Ask me how I know. All right. Hey y'all, a lot of engagement in this stream. So if you can do me a favor and hit the like button, that would help me out in my campaign against Big Sim. That would really really help me out here. Okay. So the next thing we'll do is we'll just take a look at a rejected takeoff. So, and then we can, stream's starting to go a little long. So I was planning on doing a flap malfunction, but we can do that on a future stream, a split flap condition as far as troubleshooting goes, but it's just going to lead to another flap 15 landing. So, so we'll forego that, but we will do a quick aborted takeoff, and then or a rejected takeoff rather, and then we will go ahead and watch that replay. Oh, Blackbird, no, one's good, man. I appreciate the support, dude. And yeah, as I sit here and taxi with my rudder pedals, I'm looking forward to your next peripheral. All right, so we'll get set up for the next takeoff here. Okay, starter cut out. So we'll go up here, get the generator online, probe heat, that's all set. Set up the air panel. That all looks good. We'll go continuous, APU off. Hey, fuel is close. All right. Stephen Ainer, I could log in with my new burner email for Iveo Premium and like it. That's awesome. Ooh, V1, thank you with the $5 super chat, man. I appreciate it. Irene, yes, I'm on. I'm going to have to take a quick break, stuff my face with some pizza, and then I will be back on for some Delta Force action. Blackbird, yeah, A-firm. Are we ever not? This is America, man. We need to impose our will on other countries. Okay. Okay, so that was our official stream where we're going by the procedures. I'm not going to do the checklist as we taxi back here, but we're just going to do a quick rejected takeoff instead of simulating what would have happened if we had rejected the takeoff instead of going flying. So we'll get the box set up here real quick. Flap 1 takeoff. Blackbird, come on, man. You work too hard. Need to relax a little bit. Gonna give yourself a stroke, dude. Okay. Diabetic Lad, you prefer the Tarkov part or the battlefield part of Delta Force? Definitely the Delta Force part. Okay, let's see. We're all squared away here. Zone trip again. Not going to worry about that right now, although that is cool that tripped again. Heading. Let's see. We need V speeds. I'm just going to make some up. Were we 138, 142, 146 or something like that? Sure. Flap 1. CG. Perfect it. Got to make up some numbers here to make the box happy. Boom. There we go. All right. Oh, that's true. With Expo coming up, that's a good point, dude. All right, so we got throttles checked. That's all squared away. Okay, here we go. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to set up the same failure, but we're going to, it's still going to be an engine blowing, but it's going to happen right before V1, I hope. Engine 1, severe damage. Okay, so here we go. Totally unsuspecting. Forward on the yoke, spool them up to 40. And the challenge here is maintaining directional control. All right, stable at 40. Here we go. And Watoga. On a separate note, I do feel like the very first takeoff after you actually lost an engine on takeoff would be terrifying. All right, 80 knots, neutral on the yoke. Throttle hold, thrust normal for now. All right, and execute. Boom. All right, engine failure, abort, eye of the aircraft. Throttles come to idle, speed brakes. All right. Speed brakes up, 80 knots, cancel reverse, manual braking, auto brake disarm, bring the airplane to a complete stop. Tower, American 1422 is aborting on 34 left. All right, come to a complete stop. Set the parking brake. First thing, check the doors panel. If nobody is bailing out of the airplane, the first thing, stow the speed brakes, flaps to 40. While you're doing that, the captain will be in the back. Ladies and gentlemen, we've discontinued the takeoff. Please remain in your seats. Okay, the airplane is at a complete stop. The first thing that we'll do, set the parking brake, bust out the QRH, and execute the boldface for the procedure that caused the abort. So in this case, again, no rotation, engine failure, it seemed catastrophic. Auto throttle if engaged, disengage. Throttle affected engine, confirm, idle. That's complete. All right, now we'll jump in the QRH again for engine severe damage. And you'll find that it's significantly less in depth on the ground. All right, we did the boldface, so you would go through and confirm that. Engine start lever affected engine, right? Confirmed, cut off. Engine fire switch, confirm, pull. And in real life, they stay out. Engine fire is not detected. We're on the ground. You would go to the engine fire on the ground. Okay, that doesn't apply. And now the rest of the procedure does not apply because we're not airborne. So that's complete. Now we've got to go to the post-RTO considerations checklist. So we don't think we have to abort, but you can't just, go about your life. You've got to decide whether or not to reject the takeoff. Again, we're checking to make sure no passengers have bailed, and the reason we put the flaps to 40 is the overwing exit doors. There's no slide, so you get out of the door onto the wing and then slide off the back of the flap. So that's why we put the flap to 40, so that if somebody did choose to hop out, they will have a safe way to do so. All right, and then got to go into the post RTO considerations portion of the checklist here, and we'll run through that, and then we should be pretty much done. Let's see. Non-normal checklist, rejected takeoff, considerations. Okay, following the RTO, in the case of fire, wind direction. So basically you want to turn the airplane such that the wind is blowing a fire away from the cabin. The need for emergency equipment, we aborted above 80 knots, we're just going to roll the trucks. The need to evacuate the aircraft. So this is a captain decision, solidly in the left seat. But you're going to look at this because evacuating the airplane onto an active runway is not without danger. I mean, think about it. 80-year-old grandmother who needed a wheelchair to get on the airplane. You're asking her to bail out via a slide. She's probably going to get hurt. So ask yourself the question: is staying on the airplane worse than getting out of the airplane? So there's that. Complete the non-normal checklist, which we did. The need to clear the runway. In this case, hey, yeah, we can taxi. So we could get off the runway there. Nobody's jumping out of the airplane, so life is good. Prior to a subsequent takeoff, in this case, aborting at 140 knots, we're not going to do another takeoff. So that's not a factor for us. We'll contact the dispatcher and the duty pilot, let them know. We'll dive into the books and look at our brake charts to see if we cooked a brake, because we don't want to catch fire at the gate like that American that ended up on YouTube. So we're going to check the brake cooling, and if we have hot brakes, then we'll run the hot brakes procedure. Any MEL actions, nothing there. De-icing, none of that. That's all if you're going flying again. If you decide to return to the gate, which in this case we would, then you would accomplish the after landing checklist, return to the gate, and advise the ground crew of the hot brake hazard, and that would be that. Cool. So that's that. At this point, we can go ahead and fire up the recording and take a look at how our single engine landings went. So we'll go ahead and go into recording. I'll set the flaps to 15. And Bill's Mafia, no refunds, man, but we're happy to book you on the next full flap sim live stream. Not sure when that'll be, but we'll get you a seat on it, my man. All right, so we'll set that. So this first one will be the go around. That's a V1. I liked how the Delta 73 that rejected in JFK called out for the night. Yeah, dude. Bill's Mafia, you get a 30% flight credit that expires in 3 days. All right, so here's the one where everything was going good, and then V1 decided to roll out onto the runway. So we're coming down final flap 15. Hopefully you can hear me over the sim. All right, so we're coming down. Everything's looking good. V1 on VATSIM rolls onto the runway, and go around flap 1. All right, so there's go around. Flap 1 takes about 30 feet for the go around to take place. Flaps are moving to 1. Landing gear up at positive rate. There they go. They are going to retract slower because we had a loss of a B hydraulic system. All right, and then the flaps are moving up to 1. Okay. Maybe since he finally turned off the AI traffic. Yeah, it's also pay-where scenery, Turk. Pay-where scenery, good frame rates. Look at that. And we're off. And off to the next one. So, you know, single engine go around sounds very dramatic, but I mean, assuming there's nothing else wrong with the airplane, it's not really that big of a deal. All right, we're gonna pause the replay. We're gonna zoom around. Hopefully, no one got sick there, and we'll watch this one. Resume replay. All right, flaps go to 15. Gear comes down. Salt Lake to full flap is like Phoenix is to me. Yeah, man, this is home, dude. All right. I love the scenery around Salt Lake, except for that big gravel pit. All right, arm the speed brakes. We'll watch the first one from wing view here. Oh, let's start G's too. Hey, V1, what was your landing rate on that last 7.2 stream? Last Boeing live stream touchdown rate?
Approaching minimum.
Stephen Hayner, I think you can sell full leaded beer in Utah now. I think. Not sure. I love that, just the roll spoiler flipping up. That's a very 7.3 thing. Into the flare. Speed brakes up. Ooh, 165. Chat. Chat, 165. We landed 3 times softer than Big Sim with one engine.
Too low.
Minus 69 feet a minute. Yeah. It was 469, wasn't it? Here we go. Flare. Flare. Ooh! Greased it, chat. There we go. Reversers come out. Right on center line, chat. Right on center line. Trademark. You saw it here first. Big Sim's last Boeing landing, 469 feet a minute. We did it single engine for 150. All right, chat. Thanks for hanging out with me, y'all. Thanks for coming in, watching this practice stream, getting me ready for recurrent training. Oh, hang on. 165 up. Oh, okay. All right. Hang on. Wait. Hang on. We'll play it back. We've got to. I was gonna end the stream, be professional, but Big Sim doesn't believe me here. All right. Here we go.
Don't sink.
G's.
Don't sink. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain. Too low. Terrain.
There we go.
Too low.
G's should be in the window now.
Too low. Terrain.
There we go. G's selected. 160. Oh, it's not showing. Chat, it's not showing. How do I make it display? Oh, there we go. There we go, chat. There we go. There it is. 165. Here, we'll play it back one more time so Big Sim can see it in real time. There we go. Playing it back. Zoom. Okay, he can land sim planes, but I know how his IRL landings are. Shots fired. Little higher deck angle with flap 15, so a smaller flare. That's accurate. Rudder freaking out, about to kill us. That's also accurate for a 7.3. Little baby flap 15 flare for 159. All right, chat. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun doing some engine out emergency procedures stuff. We'll do a flat malfunction on the next one if you guys want to. Once I get back from the actual sim. So thanks again for joining me. We'll see ya. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Take care. Cheers.